Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to our War in the Pacific series against XTRG. We are into almost mid-February? We're 10 days into February, so we're approaching the middle of the month of 1942. This is our third month at war with Japan, obviously December and January, now we're moving into February. Some of the Japanese bonuses are going to start tapering off in the coming months. I think there's like 3 more months of Japanese amphibious advantages. I think there's like 3 more months of Japanese advantages for having zeros and the like. So we're at the part of the war where Japan still has some substantial advantages, but they really have to hit hard and hit fast because they're about halfway through between when things start evening out from a dogfighting perspective or other things like that. The zero advantage sort of declines gradually so that by the middle of 42, it's not nearly what it was before. Meanwhile, Japanese light cruisers have moved into bombard Port Hedland. We did have a light cruiser of the Dutch Navy retreat into the port, so perhaps they're trying to chase it down. I know they did have eyeballs with reconnaissance on it. So they are bombarding the northern coast of Australia. Hopefully they're not going to invade. You can see here the port is hit twice and supply is hit once. 2 light cruisers, the Itzu and the Nagara. And but it doesn't say any hits on our ship there, so that's, I guess, a good sign. Like G-Man, thank you for the bits, man. I really appreciate it. Most of my bits, but hey, more free money. Always appreciated. Anybody who supports the channel, I definitely appreciate it. If you do enjoy the channel and you do have the ability and the means and the desire, by all means, I every little bit helps. Meanwhile, the Japanese are landing on the eastern coast of Timor. So they landed on the western coast of the island. They took Kopang over there. I think it was Kopang. And now they're landing at Dili, which is on the eastern coast of the island. So this is an important island off the northern coast of Australia that really would allow them to hammer northern Australian coast with Japanese bombers and the like. If they really decide they want to do that, I think it's a dicey strategy, right? Because there's some bases up there Japan could make a play for. Hey, look, a hit but no explosion. What a shock. There's some bases on the north coast of Australia that Japan could make a play for without triggering the auto invasion, if you will. Bonuses that trigger to Australia, like, for example, you get a bunch of extra troops if you have Australia invaded, but only if it's below, like, Brisbane. So the northern coast doesn't trigger a lot of that stuff, but most of the bases on the north coast really aren't worth a ton from a victory perspective, and they're also so isolated they don't really serve as a basis for future attacks. Aircraft base there could spread out and make life hell for the Allies from a shipping perspective, but even though the northern bases are pretty isolated from actually being able to do anything, they'd be better off pushing near Fiji, pushing near New Zealand, making a drive toward Perth itself. But that stuff is all really kind of questionable because I just, I don't know how, they're so far out there and exposed that it's a dicey proposition, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we'll see. I mean, Timor definitely helps shut the northern coast of Australia from a shipping perspective. Fortunately for us, there are roadways up to Darwin and most of the other northern bases, and we'll see how that all plays out. Darwin's the real prize on the northern coast. That's the one that's linked into the rest of the Australian logistical hub. The other bases, for the most part, are pretty isolated. Okay. With our Semple tanks? What are Semple tanks? Senpai tanks? Mark 14, my old friend, you heartless bastard. That's generally my reaction anytime I get a hit but no explosion. Hey, Metalhead. Glad you enjoy the channel. Okay. And yeah, Chemist, if you are looking for help, by all means, drop into Tortuga's Discord. That's kind of where I hang out. I've got like a channel in there. I have my own Discord, but really there's only a couple of people in there. I don't advertise it or anything like that. I don't really share it. It's largely just Tortuga, myself, Belugan, and a couple of other YouTubers that are in there. For the most part, all of my Discord activities occur on Tortuga's Discord. I've kind of set up shop there. I'm squatting over there with a channel dedicated to myself. But he's got a lot of great, really knowledgeable people. We even had a book club going where we're reading Kaigan, although we've fallen way behind on like keeping that book club up. But if you're looking for people with a wealth of historical knowledge and whatnot, that's a good place to check out. Hey, No Name, things are going great. That's interesting. Apparently there might be Japanese submarines up near Alaska? Sure hope he's not making a play up there. I really haven't sent any reinforcements toward Alaska. Again, it would kind of be one of those things where it's like, all right, Japan, go ahead and send troops way out in the middle of nowhere where you can't support them, and there's really not a lot of victory points that you gain for doing it, but go for it. All right, so a dogfight over Palembang. It looks like 8 Japanese Ki-44 Tojos up against 9 Buffaloes. This should be a butcher's fest, with the Japanese shredding through our Buffaloes, especially since the Tojos are coming in at altitude. The Tojo is, you know, it's an experimental plane at this point, but it's going to be a mainline Japanese fighter before too long, and it's a more advanced version of anything they have out there. I think it replaces the Oscar, and it's a pretty damn good airframe, so it's tough for us to try and engage anything there. Looks like we lost 1 Buffalo. Nothing on the Japanese side was lost. Our real hope there is that they lose some operational losses just from flying long distances. You know, someone gets sleepy and crashes, or maybe they take a couple of bullet holes but not enough to destroy them. Then maybe they lose some operational damage. Meanwhile, 49 Ki-27B Nates escorting 10 Ki-32 Mary bombers over Singapore. The bombing doesn't appear to do any damage. 2 of the Marys are damaged, 1 destroyed by flak. A report by an SBD to the south of New Zealand. I'd have to take a look at that, to be honest, like a G-man. Or, yeah. Okay. Metalhead, thanks for the follow, by the way. All right, so more torpedoes missing. What is this? Why is there a Japanese submarine tender near Parishojima, but this is halfway toward Alaska? Are they really going to make a play for Alaska? That seems pretty foolish if they do. I was kind of debating, like, could we throw some Catalinas up there and maybe, like, jump in and take a base behind in his rear and just kind of play havoc and throw them off balance, and maybe even making a couple of really minor raids on Japan? But he may be making a play for Alaska before we can really do anything about it, which would kind of suck. All right, Japanese bombardment at Wankau. That 100th Corps is getting worn down just a little bit. They were over 300 assault, now they're down to 290. I don't know if it matters, but he's brought in 2 full divisions and some brigades and regiments of support, so Wankau will probably fall before too long. Meanwhile, we do have a understrength corps between Hankow and Sinyang, attempting to just interdict his railroad communications and transport. He did attack and drove them back with probably limited. Yeah, he basically lost just a little bit of disruption. We lost 71 squads destroyed. So he definitely won a victory there. Meanwhile, Allied deliberate attack here against the 2nd Royal Thai Army Division to the east of Pegu. That attack doesn't look like it's going well. 1 to 2 Allied assault odds. Japanese lose 33 men, mostly just disabled. We lose 12 squads destroyed. So not a disaster, but not exactly the result we were hoping for. I was hoping to drive that 2nd Royal Thai Division off, but obviously that didn't happen. Geraldton on the western coast of Australia has its fortifications expanded to 3. Doesn't matter a whole lot. We basically don't have any troops there. The secret to Japanese victory in this game, pull the army from China and go after Hawaii. Well, the Japanese really can't do that because of the house rules we have in place. So he cannot withdraw any troops from China without paying the full political cost to remove them from their HQs that are really restricted to China. So in theory, if you gave it 3 or 4 years, maybe not 3 or 4 years, but if you gave it quite a bit of time, he might be able to do that. But that's not a short-term thing. That's certainly not something we have to worry about in February of 42. He just doesn't have political points to do that. All right. So we ended the replay. Somewhat of a anticlimactic replay, other than perhaps the location of enemy sub-tenders up there in near Alaska, perhaps. Okay, what did we see over here? He's moving southeast. To where? And why is he taking that route? I mean, he could still be going. The weird thing is why it would be a sub-tender, right? Like, there's one enemy ship out here. Why is there a sub-tender? Well, actually, no, this is my sub. I was like, wait, am I in the wrong save file? Am I somehow looking at XTRG stuff? But no, this is my sub that I had actually ordered to fall back here. So we had actually ordered this sub back from Japan to return to Pearl, and they just happened to stumble upon this enemy task force here moving southeast. I wish there was like a patrol option to shadow. Can you like order them to follow the enemy? No. But in any event, I think we'll set their reaction there. So there's a chance they may kind of keep up with these guys and give us some intel. I don't really have much in the way of actual... Like, I just don't know why he'd make a play for Australia. It's like, oh, yay, 15 victory points that I'll probably just ignore. All right, let's do this. Let's send these guys... over here. They're going to cross paths with whatever's coming this way. By the way, if there's a clicking, I'm sorry. I've got a really noisy fan that's like wobbling or something, and it keeps like making this cluck, 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 cluck noise. So if it shows up in the background audio, I apologize. I'm not sure how to fix it. It's a case fan, and not really sure what I can do about it. I don't want to replace the case. Anyway, we're going to move the 3 subs over here off the coast of Australia just to kind of give us a little bit more info if there is anything out that way. We are providing additional supplies to Kodiak and Anchorage, so we've got cargo ships unloading there. I don't really have anything on the Western Aleutian Islands. We've got a small base force garrison and some coastal artillery at Dutch Harbor, but even that's pretty meh. It's got level 3 forts, which isn't bad, but I don't know. It seems like it would be a weird place for him to strike at. But again, historically the Japanese did, so who knows. Yeah, this is a modded map. I'm trying to remember the name of the mod, but the month and the year, it is February of 1942. It's February 11th, 1942. So still very much Japanese momentum, if you will, in the war. Meanwhile, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this here, but the Americal Division is all in San Diego now. It's not all assigned to the same HQ. We still have to switch the 164th. But we have enough political points to do it! Yes! We can build the Americal Division now. We're going to spend all of our political points to do it here. But we've got the 132nd Infantry Division, or Regiment, the 164th Infantry Regiment, and the 182nd Infantry Regiment, all in the same place. The only reason we can't merge them and form an actual division out of them is because the 164th is still assigned to the West Coast HQ. We're going to go ahead and change that to the Pacific Fleet HQ. It's going to cost us 714 political points. It's going to leave us with only 16 left over. We've been saving up for quite some time. But in doing that, we can now rebuild these troops into a single unit, the Americal Infantry Division, one of the famous infantry divisions of the Pacific War, with an assault strength of over 381 all by itself. You also get a large sort of support and efficiency bonus. And this is a force that we can definitely use to strike back against the Japanese here before too long. Lost NZ, thank you very much for the subscription gift to Safra 301678. Appreciate it. And Ulther712, thank you for the follow. You guys are awesome, man. I'll get another emoji slot open up if I get another 8 subs. I think I'm at 17 right now, and you have to have 25 to have 3 emojis on Twitch. So just need 8 more subs before any of the others fall off. But yeah. So the Americal Division is formed, and that's awesome now. So they are at San Diego, and they are just kind of being awesome. Just kind of doing their thing, being awesome. This is also a division that in the event the Japanese do make a play, and I'm not going to send them there because it would really be out of the way and a waste, but if the Japanese did make like a shoestring play for Dutch Harbor or something like that, we could definitely land a division over that way and probably eject any sort of offensive there as long as they don't commit the Kiributai up that way. All right. So, with that being said, let's take a look here. So the turn, we had some air-to-air battles. We lost 3 aircraft in air-to-air, 4 operational. The Japanese lost 7 operational, 1 to flak. Again, fog of war is all a thing. We lost 5 Buffaloes, 3 air-to-air, 2 ops. Those were probably all in that engagement against the Tojos. Meanwhile, Japan didn't really lose anything other than a handful of individual aircraft, so they lost 1 Mary to Flak, they lost an Oscar operationally, a Nate, a Mavis, a Betty, a Nell, just from, basically run-of-the-mill, like, hey, you're running operations. 7 aircraft lost really isn't anything to worry about. It's basically nothing. We only lost 1 pilot KIA. The bulk of our pilots who are up here and experienced are all doing well. We do have one guy, a couple of aces who are wounded. No aces missing in action, and only 1 ace is dead, being Brownwell, J.L. Brownwell, First Lieutenant of the 24th Pursuit Group, 17th Pursuit Squadron, flying a P-40. He was killed a while ago. In terms of ship sunk, I don't think anything was sunk last turn. Doesn't look like it. Nothing was sunk last turn. In terms of ship availability coming up here, if we take a look, we've got, as the Allies, we always have a ton of ships that are about to arrive. We actually have the Resolution and Ramillies, so 2 British battleships are going to be arriving at Cape Town here in 4 days. We've got a couple of cargo ships here arriving in Cape Town, Aden, Los Angeles. We've got a couple of APDs. These will be useful. These are basically destroyer transports designed to transport troops. We've got a bunch of those arriving at Cristobal here in about 4 days. We've got some more subs arriving in Mare Island and along the U.S. West and East Coast here in 4 days. Some more troop transports, some mine layers. Interestingly enough, we have some mine layers arriving at Singapore in 4 days. Assuming Singapore is still around and hasn't fallen, I don't think it will have fallen in 4 days. And so that's sort of the situation with upcoming ships. In terms of ship withdrawal, I don't think we have anything that we need to pull out in the immediate period of time. We filter by days. It looks like we've got the Queen Elizabeth needs to come off in 67 days. She is currently, I think, in Cape Town in South Africa, repairing some of the damage she suffered, mostly more or less just running at full speed from the Japanese. In terms of ground withdrawal, I never really see ground withdrawal as a thing. Really, it's just like convoys here, so nothing to worry about there anytime soon. In terms of air withdrawal, that's the real kicker usually. Group withdrawal schedule, 4 days before withdrawal. So we've got some B-25s, B-18s, all on the U.S. West Coast that are going to be withdrawn from the theater soon. I don't know, I'm always confused why I can't actually withdraw groups, why it wants me to disband them. That's always confusing to me. In terms of pilots, I can probably send these guys to the reserve pool. So, turn off retain, transfer them to group reserve. Actually, probably not group reserve. Is it TACOM? Active group reserve. I guess it is reserve. So, we can send these guys out that way. The ones that have a little bit of experience who are worth sending out. Anyone over 50, I think, is worth retaining. Anyone below 50 is probably just, might as well be a new recruit. So we can manage that, and I'm not going to do a lot of that on camera. That's not super exciting to watch, but I'll do that off camera. So yeah, that's about that. In terms of enemy task forces, we have this one up here in sort of the no man's land between Japan and between Alaska. I don't know whether that's something to be worried about or not. It was a submarine tender. We've just loaded supplies back up on the patrol craft Zeeman. It was loaded back up at Tarkin, and she's going to make another run for Bataan. So Bataan still has 35,384 supply left. It is February of 42. We're going to try and sneak another 635 supply. We've already sent more than 20,000 additional supply into Bataan. So if we hadn't sent all that extra supply, it'd probably be closer to around 15 to 20,000, just the way that spoilage works. Maybe 25,000, but it's definitely a lot better off as a result of the supply that we snuck in and the loose cordon that XTRG had around the base for quite a long time. He did close the vice a bit and sank a bunch of cargo ships, just small cargo ships that were going there maybe a month or so ago. But we still have this one patrol craft operating in the Dutch East Indies trying to sneak through enemy air patrols or ship patrols. So if we can bring 600 extra supply in there, that's probably at least a day worth of full supply. And every day that we can resist at Bataan is another day that the Japanese have to keep a fair number of units there. You can see 13 units there and 4 units back here tied up, sort of bottling our troops up. The same it can be said of Singapore. Singapore's supply situation, 32,000. There's not as many troops there. Our assault value at Singapore, he continues to bomb us there, but our assault strength is still at about 1,000. The morale of those troops is low. There's 2 Indian divisions that are kind of our primary resistance forces, and then we've got 2 Australian infantry brigades as well. We've got a bunch of other brigades and battalions and whatnot. 22nd Australian is recovering some of its cohesion. We fought a couple of battles around Mersing that caused our strength to be reduced. We probably could have been around 1,400 assault value instead of 1,000 if we hadn't fought those battles, but it did help us to delay the Japanese drive on Singapore. And we're at February 11th. I think, didn't historically Singapore fall a couple days ago, or is this? I'm not quite sure. It could be misidentified. Maybe the AAS up near Australia isn't actually a subtender. That's definitely possible. But in any event, we only saw the one ship. Yeah, Carnegie, I need to do a better job of actually scheduling my streams. I'm pretty ad hoc. I don't typically stream till late at night. I've been streaming a lot more. I've streamed 16 of the last 30 days or so. Usually anywhere between 9 and 10 o'clock Central Standard Time is when I start. Probably closer to 10. The Japanese have brought forces into Molman here, in addition to the Royal Thai Division that's up here to the northeast of Pegu. Given that he's brought reinforcements this way, I don't know what he has there. We've got a brigade in the way. It might make sense. I'm ordering... What I don't want to do, I'm ordering the 1st Burma Division to the east. But what I really don't want to do is get these guys stuck here and the enemy comes in behind us. So in all honesty, I think what I need to do is I need to pull these troops out and stop trying to drive the Royal Thai troops back. We're going to order both of these troops to pull back to the northeast of Pegu. They'll kind of guard the river there while this brigade guards the front, and that way the Japanese can't just go up and around us and easily flank us and get in behind our main formation there and cut the rail line in that direction. So we're going to pull these 2 battered brigades out of fighting the 2nd Royal Thai, and they'll at least provide a screen along this railway moving north toward Mandalay. We're going to go ahead and we're going to order the 1st Burma Division to hold its position at Pegu, so we'll switch it over to combat. We're going to order these troops that just railed in, the Tessamari and these other lighter troops. We're going to order them into combat formation as well. And basically, we have a full division here, not much more. If he brings, a really strong force, we do have some troops at Rangoon that we can bring forward, but not a ton. So we'll switch these guys over to combat. We're a little bit lean near Rangoon. Honestly, there's not a ton. If the Japanese push hard at Rangoon, there's not much the Allies can do to stop them. But we'll do our best. Meanwhile, the aircraft at Rangoon, we've got. How many? 51 fighters ready for service out of a total of 58 airframes. A good chunk of those are obsolete. You've got 10 Buffaloes, you've got 8 P-39 Air Cobras, which are better but not great. We've got some Hurricanes. Actually, and a couple of Buffaloes down here. So they're not as bad as the formation otherwise could be. Not sure if we can upgrade these guys to the Hurricane 2A. Can we? Doesn't look like we can upgrade them right now. So we won't do that. All right. We also have a bunch more fighters up in where is it? Not Lido. Chittagong? 48 Hurricanes up here, but I don't have the support to base them down in Rangoon at the moment. Let's see here. We've got some cargo ships that are coming in to the port. What I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to form a new task force, a new cargo task force. We're going to send 2 ships in. The Indian and the Montan. We're going to send them into Rangoon directly. Flank speed. Set their home port to Rangoon. And then we'll also set their orders to just be absolute and direct. So they'll tolerate maximum threat and they'll go directly in there. Meanwhile, the other ships here are going to wait to the north. Doesn't look like he's detected them. So what these guys are going to do is they're going to go over here and they're just going to kind of maybe not even that far in. They're just going to kind of idle up here to the north of Rangoon. So they're going to remain on station. And the reason for that is he does have air cover over Rangoon with torpedo bombers. And so what I want to keep some of these guys further away and relatively safe, and we'll kind of sneak in a limited amount of ships to limit our exposure in the event that he does start hitting us with air. We only have 12,000 supply at Rangoon, so that's a bit of a concern. We have refineries there. We've got, production there. We're producing some supply, but it's not enough for all of the troops that we have off this railway. So we're gonna bring in that supply slowly, and we'll kind of see how things go. We got another 29,000 supply coming from these ships over here to the west. 74,000 supply coming in from another group of ships. So we have a ton of ships ready to dump a ton of supplies into Rangoon to help our defense here. Another 28,000 over here. So we can definitely, 28,000, 74, so that's about 102, about 130, 165, and 171,000 supply within a week's time of Rangoon. But again, we also don't want to dump a ton of supply and then get it all captured by the Japanese either. Airfield, we're going to stop expanding that. Well, let's wait to see what he's driving it against us with. And that's that. What's Pagoose fortifications at? They're at 3. The real risk for Rangoon is that he goes up and over, and then he gets around our flank without actually having to attack the fortifications directly. Repair facilities on Ceylon. Ceylon? I'm not sure. How do you pronounce that again? I'm not sure there's much of anything. Nothing at Tricom-Ali. What's at Colombo? I think there might be some light limited shipyards. 40 repair shipyards. What's that mean in terms of the actual dry docks? So we can actually... So docking is up to 78,000 tons. What about repair? Is there anyone there that actually needs repair? I can't really see. Oh, wait. Repair... Up to 40,000 tons can be repaired at Colombo. So, I guess not nothing. Alright, so... These Aerocobras using drop tanks, can they get to Rangoon? They can. So we're going to go ahead and get one more P-39 into Rangoon. We've got Lodestars here. They're currently assigned to the Dutch Air Force. I don't have enough political points to assign them anywhere else. So I'm going to try and get these 10 transports into India, because I want to try and use them to ferry supplies into China, preparing for the eventual fall of the Burma Road. Meanwhile, a large number of Japanese troops here to the east of Changsha. We have one. Let's see here. We've got about 600 troops at Henyang, or however you pronounce that. And then we've got about 15,000 troops, totaling about 1,000 assault value at Seingatan. I think we're also pulling out several hundred troops here to move to the west. So I've got almost 1,000 assault value here. I've got about 700 with some good forts here at Henyang. So we've got level 3 forts here. We've got level 2 forts here, but it's less risky. It's a larger force here. My real concern, and I've expressed this in the past, so Changsha is obviously a fortress. It's on the wrong side of the river. He can certainly overwhelm us if he tries, but it's definitely going to be a bloody affair if he does. My real concern is not that he attacks at either Henyang or Sigatan, because both of these have 2 and level 3 fortifications. If he crosses the river to attack, he automatically shock attacks with anything that crosses the river, and as a result, he's going to get a big bloody nose like what we saw at Singapore a couple turns back. My real concern is to the west. If he decides to use this rail line here, if he penetrates northwest of Henyang, this is why I've had this corps here for weeks. We've got a single corps here with about 200 assault value. But if he attacks there, they don't have any fortifications. I think it's clear terrain. It's not a good situation. The only thing that works in our favor is he has to shock attack. But we don't have anything really to kind of strengthen or buttress our defense like fortifications or good terrain. And so if he moves to the west, even with like a full division, that could be a bit of a risk that he would cut our rail line here and in theory imperil Changsha and the entire line. We do have good roadways. We can fall back to the west of Kuang. It's unlikely he would bag the entire force, because if he did that, he'd have no way to supply these troops to penetrate further in. There's no roadway connection here, so he'd probably not be able to penetrate more than just the one hex across the river, but it could still imperil our line and flank all of the troops over here to the west. So it's a concern. I'm going to reinforce. I'm going to try and get the assault bay over here up to maybe about 500. Still not a ton, but I can't defend everywhere in China. And that'll just make me rest a little bit more easy. I'm not super worried about Changsha. It's still a level 4 fortification. The real worry there is that we run out of supply. For the moment, we're okay there, supply-wise. I think if he made another assault, he might be able to reduce the fortifications. But again, it would be bloody, and he would probably end up not breaking through. So that's the situation there. Here's the corps he drove back that was situated between Xinjiang and Hankow. We've got another force here. Again, just a small force of a nuisance here, cutting the rail line between Xinjiang and Changchao to prevent him from being able to just rail supplies up from Shanghai all the way to his forces in Wuchang, a short distance from Changsha. We've got troops kind of interdicting the railway there a little bit, trying to get in his way. I'm not sure if these guys are suffering penalties from lack of supply, but I'm trying to move some of these troops out as well. Some of these large troop formations. We just can't support them at Nanyang. We don't have enough supply coming forward, so I'm going to try and pull them back to Sian, which itself is low on supply. And so, again, the whole Chinese theater is just a meringue of inefficient and insufficient supplies that make things pretty difficult to have success there. Bataan is still hanging in there. He keeps bombing them. There are still almost 1,900 assault value, fortifications of a level 4, more than adequate supply for quite some time. Singapore we already looked at. Palembang, we see he's trying to whittle our air force down there. The fatigue of the defenders is a little bit concerning, but they really don't have enough airframes anyway. In terms of Djambi, these Air Cobras, they're going to go ahead and get drop tanks, and then we're going to go ahead and transfer these guys up here to Sabang, where they can fly directly to Rangoon. So we're trying to shuttle some of our fighters around to get them over to Rangoon. More Dutch fighters are over here, so we'll go ahead and send these guys down to Palembang as well. The whole point of having them at Djambi was so they could provide air cover over Singapore, but now that air cover over Singapore is frankly just not practical and not something we can really do, we might as well pull them all back to Palembang. If he does start hitting Palembang with bombers, we may lose some aircraft on the ground. I'm not actually going to have these guys going to cap quite yet, but we'll at least strengthen our air force at Palembang by having the Dutch air force largely fall back there on the island of Sumatra. That'll give us 29 ready aircraft, 40 total, although 6 of those are wearways, and 5 of those are bombers. 6 of those are bombers. But still, we're pulling the B-339s back, and I guess we could set them to full cap here. I don't know. It just seems silly. It's like, well, what are you going to do? You're just going to get shot to pieces. Do you really want to waste your strength like that? I don't know. Maybe there's a chance that the enemy will send bombers at us and we'll surprise him. This light cruiser is heading back. I want to send this guy. Well, he's heading west to join the carrier formation. Something that you guys also told me is that carriers apparently don't move when the formation that they're trying to merge with is out of supply. So these guys are set to merge, but they won't actually move. They're waiting for these other carriers to come join them. So I'm actually just going to send them manually down here. We won't allow them to retire, and I'm going to try and get this carrier task force to merge with the... Wait, where are they going? That is not where I told them to go. No. Go down here and move there. All right, so we're going to move these carriers here, the Indomitable and then the Royal Sovereign battleship and 3 destroyers to the south here to attempt to link up with the Hermes group, which is out of fuel because yours truly is not a logistical mastermind. And it's basically sitting there out of fuel, so they can refuel these guys as they get down there. I think they're moving at 1 hex a turn, actually, so let's move them 1 hex north. I don't think they'll get there. It'll be 2 days before they get there, but that should give some sufficient fuel to get these guys moving. Meanwhile, we are going to drop a little bit of fuel on Coscos Island. That is a very small port, but we might be able to get like some destroyers and other things in there to replenish them, and then we can get the carrier and the light carrier to the south to Australia. I don't think we have any ships headed to Oosthaven. These guys are heading to Cape Town, Cuscos. So none of our tankers there are heading to Oosthaven. Meanwhile, Japanese, I'm assuming these are the cruisers here moving northeast. It looks like his warships that were at Kopang may be moving out. Not sure. His carriers here are moving northeast. So they were at Kopang a turn or two ago. Now they're moving northeast. Does this guy have any... He's returning to port to replenish. How about you go patrol off Delhi? Or Dili. Dili! Woo! Where, yeah, go over there. Try and engage those enemies. Do we have any Dutch subs over here? I think we do. Dili! Oh, really? Alright, we're going to go ahead and send these guys over here as well. Maybe we can get in amongst his landing force. It's a tough situation because it's, you know, you're going against enemy shipping in shallow waters. But I'd like to try and do something with these Dutch subs that have working torpedoes. So let's see if we can get them over to Dili and maybe engage the enemy over that way. Meanwhile, the cruiser that we had pull into Port Hedland is currently repairing. She has 50 float damage, 36 system damage. The real key is like, hey, let's just not sink. So that's the objective, is to not sink, to get some of this flood damage and systems damage down a little bit, and then make a run for Perth. We did send... Didn't we send a heavy cruiser task force out? Oh, yeah, we did. So we sent these guys out to join up with this mine layer that was out of fuel. So we're going to go ahead and send this heavy cruiser, these light cruisers. We're going to go ahead and send these ships north a little bit. It looks like since his carriers are pulling out from the north coast of Australia, I think Port Hedland is safe from bombardment. He might be able to fly aircraft from Kopang to Port Hedland. We're going to send these guys over here. We're going to remain on station. They're going to be safe off the northwest coast of Australia, and then maybe we'll sprint them into Hedland so they can refuel that light cruiser and pull it out to Perth. We'll see. Meanwhile, we've got other ships in Perth that are unloading. We've got actually some tankers here that are empty. So we've got 2 tankers here that have unloaded. This tanker here... Actually, these guys all still have fuel. Or no, they don't. These guys have unloaded their fuel. So there's 4 tankers here. And then 1 destroyer. Mine layer. Destroyer, the Paul Jones. So we're going to go ahead and have these guys replenish at port. These 4 tankers are then going to go ahead and make a play to head back up north to Colombo. I may set up a shuttle service to bring fuel into Colombo and then from Colombo to Australia. That may not be a terrible idea. Go ahead and make sure to use waypoints to keep them well out to sea to prevent them from running into... Actually, I didn't tell them to go to Colombo, did I? I just told them that's where their headquarters was. Yeah, so they'll return to Colombo. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and use the waypoints here to move them west. Actually, that 1 waypoint looks like it'll probably be sufficient. We'll move them a little bit further west. Should get them out of range of any Japanese prowling eyes. This actually makes it look... Oh, we don't want to move them at full speed. That would be a bad idea. So I'll have a destroyer and an AM. The AM actually has some ASW capabilities as well. And 4 tankers here to return back there to pick up more fuel now that it's unloaded. Meanwhile, we've got another 20,000 fuel unloading at Perth right now. Perth has 160,000 fuel, and that's really key in helping drive the Australian economy. Another 10,000's coming in from this tanker over here, 12,000 here. Some cargo ships moving back to Colombo. Okay, so in terms of our shipping in Cape Town, if we look at the repair that's ongoing, we are still 10 days away from having a cargo ship, the Dorsaya, available. The Queen Elizabeth is 2 weeks away. The battleship cruiser Repulse is about little less than 3 months away, and the battleship Prince of Wales is just shy of a year away from being ready. Those guys are all currently under repair. Cape Town itself has almost no fuel. We have a couple of ships there. We've got about 400 fuel. We generate about 250 a turn. We've got a couple of warships here, the heavy cruiser Dorshire, the light cruiser Emerald, some destroyers. The battleship Revenge showed up. We've got 2 more battleships coming in 4 days. So we're going to really avoid doing anything with those guys for a little while still. Meanwhile, we have some troops, I think, somewhere around here that are being transported. Yep, we've got a division of Australian troops that are moving off the coast of India. They're moving to Perth to reinforce Australia on the west coast, and also potentially be useful in operations in the South Pacific. A very good Australian division, the 6th Australian Infantry Division, is on the way. And then we have some elements, I think, of the 7th Australian Infantry Division that are arriving at Aden here. In 2 and 3 days, we've got the 21st and 25th Australian Infantry Brigades to go with the 18th, and then we've got a machine gun battalion at Karachi. We may move them to India to help reinforce there, although there's no way they're going to get into the Burma theater within the next 3 months or so, I would guess. So we've got another Australian, very good crack Desert Rat division arriving, and then we also have the Americal division, which just was formed, and so things are starting to look a little bit better. In terms of our carriers here, these guys are moving off to the south, toward the west of New Zealand. And I think what I really need to do a good job of here is I need to set these guys... Dauntlesses can patrol, that's fine. But, well, no, I don't have any Devastators patrolling here. The Devastators are the telltale giveaway that... Oh, these guys are. Okay. Yeah, the Devastators are the telltale giveaway that, hey, you've got carriers in the area. Dauntlesses are relatively common. I've got them based on several islands. But the fact that we had some Devastators there could give away our position if we're not careful. So those guys, until we know that, we're looking to engage the enemy, we don't want any of those guys running any search and patrol missions. He doesn't have any detection over the carriers, so I think they're relatively safe. Again, if he sees Dauntlesses off the coast of New Zealand, whatever. We've got Dauntlesses in Fiji. We've got Dauntlesses in Pago Pago. We've got Dauntlesses in Australia. There's no way for him to know for sure that would be due to, land combat forces. Carrier forces. Meanwhile, we are in the process of unloading the 2nd Marine Regiment and some base forces and Marine paratroopers at Vavu. We're also unloading some supply there. We've got 11,000 supply. So we're going to unload these guys here. We're going to immediately start building fortifications here. There's no engineers ashore yet, but there will be. There is a small port here at Vavu. We're going to build this port up and the air capacity up. And this is going to be a link in our Fiji chain. So we've got Pago off here to the east. We've got Suva over here. But there's a bit of a gap between the two, and the aircraft aren't long enough ranged really to support either one. So Vavu is going to be kind of the supporting base in the rear and the flank to support the flank of Suva and support the flank of Pago and strengthen our Fiji line up in this way, and also prevent any easy Japanese invasions of other islands in this vicinity. Meanwhile, the 2nd U.S. Marine Corps Tank Battalion, which cannot unload at Vavu due to insufficient port facilities, is moving to Auckland to reinforce our troops there, so that New Zealand is going to be not impossible. I mean, logistically, it's probably borderline impossible for Japan, but if he did make a play there, it's going to be much more difficult with all the troops that we have there. We already brought some combat engineers also in there. The real weakness, I think, is at Norfolk and Lord Howe Island, which theoretically he could take. Lord Howe can be a decent airfield, but it has basically no port, and Norfolk literally has no port, so I don't know how he certainly can't supply Norfolk without a port in any meaningful way, but he could throw float planes down there, which would be a little bit of a nuisance. Where's this guy going? Yeah, this guy's going up to Townsville, where he's going to load up a small formation here and move it to Port Moresby to strengthen our defensive troops at Port Moresby. So we've got some rifle units here that are on the process of moving back to Moresby. We've got about just shy of 200 assault value at Moresby itself right now. Switch these guys over to combat. These guys can form part of the Port Moresby Brigade, right? Yeah, but one of the companies was destroyed on some island somewhere, so it won't be in Sydney for 20 days. So we'll want to get them over there to try and form the Port Moresby Brigade as well. I don't know what the difference is between BDE and Brigade. Not 100% sure. Like a G-Men, we may bomb Savi in time. It may act as a nice little training base, but I don't really want to tip my hand too much on my air forces in the region. I've actually moved a lot of the bombers out of Pago over to Suva. We could, again, we've got 125 aircraft. Wow, I didn't realize I had 125 aircraft at Suva. Certainly not enough to stop the Kiributai. They'd get slaughtered, especially since a big chunk of these guys are buffaloes. But feels good to have them in any event. 52 fighters. Any of these guys dive bombers? We got 35 dive bombers. Some of them are older, but we could probably upgrade them to the Dauntless. SB3? For the SB2. Right now they're flying Vindicators. But yeah. So that's good to know. Currently they're just training. So basically we have an aircraft carrier on Suva. 50 fighters and 35 bombers. I don't think we have any torpedo bombers there. We don't. We have a handful of heavy bombers that are really no use. Although they could be useful against enemy shipping. But that's the situation right now, guys. I don't have a lot else to share. Just some logistical stuff. We're moving some troops around, moving some tankers around. Not a lot else to show this turn. So rather than belabor the point, let's go ahead and jump in here and wrap this one up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. The next episode in our War in the Pacific turn. I'll get this over to XTRG quickly as well. I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, as always, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you once again for watching, and until next time, I'm out.